Everyone, it's Sylas, and this is the patch 14.15 notes rundown here on the FlyQuest LOL YouTube channel, and we are going to talk about another filler patch because Riot is not interested in putting out actual balance patches this year, it seems like, as we have only had a couple. And most of those were the really major ones like 14.10 and obviously the arrival of like the Skarner rework. And outside of that, we are just getting thrown this hot garbage. So let's talk about everything really quickly. So the TLDR on Akali is the W Twilight Shroud fake news. You don't get access to it until the super later stages of the game. Does not matter. You're still only getting one Twilight Shroud per fight. R perfect execution. So the TLDR is the damage on it is going to be lower on the initial cast, but the damage on it will then be greater on the follow-up, you know, second cast damages and all that other good stuff. The cooldowns are completely fake. The only thing that actually maybe matters is the rank 1 cooldown that prevents snowballing from her in lane. She's not going to instantly have it up to just completely murder you, but in mid game and late game, the cooldown of it is going to be completely the same, and she'll have it once per team fight. Aurora, this is the really sad one where, okay, so seems like opinions pretty much everywhere are conflicted. In Korea, I think most people think that Aurora is really bad, and then in NA and EU, you have different people that just have different stances on her, but ultimately, all I really care about is her competitive viability, and with her already being nerfed out the gate, and the fact that she is not a champion that is able to be blind picked, already means that I think that she's just going to be completely stuck in the solo queue, you know, hell. So, passive adoration is going down, you know, base movement speed, very negligible amount. She's basically losing magical boots. Twofold hex, whatever, across the veil. Kind of like a fake nerf, but whatever. And then E, the weirding. So this is a nerf in early and mid-game stages until she has tier 2 boots and maybe some other, you know, movement speed, accelerations, etc. In which case then it ends up being a buff, but only ever so slightly. R between worlds, the base damage on it is going down by a flat 50 as well as 5% AP. So she is losing a little bit of damage, but again, not the end of the world. Aurelion Sol, they are just tagging his mana costs pretty much across the board, and that's going to be totally fine for Aurelion Sol. He's not actually losing any damage. And the Astral Flight is getting cut, but again, does not matter at either because, my lord. Casseopia. So this is the actual interesting change of Cassio. Now, even when Quirky and Tristana were pretty much everywhere, Casseopia popping up didn't really happen all that often, even though she is really sleeper, as she comes in as the theme counter to a lot of team compositions, and she can be a lane bully. The TLDR on this is that Casseopia is losing 20% AP off of her Q, and then she's losing 5% AP off of her E. So she's probably going to be anywhere losing from about 40 to 50% AP inside of an extended trade. The base damage on it is staying the same everywhere, so that doesn't matter. And in exchange for this, she's actually getting access to a lot more mana. And so that is the way to look at it. The miasma change is totally fake, and so Casseopia in really extended trades, she is going to have more mana, but she is going to be increasingly losing damage based on her AP, but somewhere probably around the 50% AP mark of an extended trade. So if she has 300 AP, then she's probably losing about 150 damage. However, because of the mana costs and everything like that, as long as she lands like 1 or 2 extra abilities due to the increased mana that she's now getting access to, it's going to balance out that way. Ezreal, Q damage decreased, losing 10% total AD, doesn't matter. Aurelia, this is actually a really big buff for Aurelia. She's getting a 40 flat HP level 1, which is crazy. And the other thing is that because Aurelia goes to full HP several times inside of a laning phase, the fact that she's getting a flat 40 to extra play with means that she's probably going to get somewhere below a Ruby Crystal, but it is going to be balanced out by the health regen also being nerfed a little bit there as well. But when she does come back to lane with Vampiric Scepter, doesn't matter. Leona passive damage decreased, W damage decreased, completely fake, negligible amounts. Obviously, in solo queue, will move the needle. It is not going to do anything to competitive Leona picks. And if you think that these types of damage numbers are what alters your competitive viability or competitive viable Leona picks, then you have no idea how to read patch notes, and that's totally fine. Shyvanna, E damage is increased. So here's the thing that they're doing with Shyvanna. When she's in her R empowered form, they are increasing the base damage on it, but yes, her AP is actually going down quite considerably across the board, and the base damage in just regular human, you know, Shyvanna form, whatever, It's not Dragon. The base damage is also down there as well, and that's what they're trying to do. And, you know, 80 Shyvanna, who's currently pretty underplayed for good reason. She is underplayed, you know, so the whole thing they're saying here about the 50% most players does not really matter. Skarner. Base health growth is increased. Q mana cost decreased. E no longer grabs targets behind Skarner. Health growth is going up by 5. Skarner's going to get half an auto attack inside of laning phase in top lane. Inside of the jungle, this does not mean anything. 5 mana cost removed off the Q. Doesn't really matter. And now no longer can kidnap. Skarner is, I saw the Reddit thread about how he's back to almost, you know, pre-rework player base levels, which, I mean, now they did too much. And I mean, we said that in the Skarner preview rework review. It said that if his numbers were anywhere remotely okay, the champion is just going to be absolutely broken. And because his numbers were remotely okay and people learned how to play him and do his E's and all this other type of stuff, yeah, the champion was absolutely nuts. And so now he's stuck in that, like, he's stuck in the Kassadin zone where if his numbers are even remotely fair, he will just be kind of nuts. And if they're, you know, not there, then he's just not going to be picked. So, Sylas. They're doing some really wonky things here where they're increasing all of his durability and they're increasing his utility in exchange for making him lose a little bit of AP across the board on his abilities. And so that is exactly what pro players want. Pro players basically want increased utility, increased durability, because Sylas already functions with too much damage with everything that he has right now. So the fact that he's getting these kind of buffs in addition to other AP item buffs, he's getting a lot of indirect stuff, and that's actually probably going to help Sylas be moved, or the needle be moved back into pro play. Very cool. Talon, Q dash now lands closer to the target, doesn't matter. Varus, base AD increase, passive attack speed bonuses is passive attack speed bonuses increased, W on hit damage decreased. So W on hit damage decreased affects top lane Varus. Everything else here that is happening affects bot lane Varus, and basically all of his early trading at level 7, getting access to that 5% minion kill attack speed is going to be very nice. And all that good stuff. So Yasuo and Yone, this is where someone's on drugs. So armor is up by 2. Sweeping blade is going to be 25% now, just flat for the bonus damage per stack. And that, you know, that's totally great as well. And the flat base damage on his E is now up at 10 at rank 1, 15 at rank 2, 20 at rank 3. Very cool. And now Yone, this is where you really, this is someone did something before they went in on Yone here. So Yone is just getting a flat 20 base damage added to his Q. And the way that they're nerfing that, however, is by, oh yeah, he's still just going to have his R once per team fight. You're right, games. Zed, QAD ratio decreased, damage increased at higher ranks, R cooldown is increased, cooldown is, so damage is going to go up by a flat 20 later, and he's going to lose 10% bonus AD, so this is totally fine. They're making it so that he can build more bruisery, where he can build more defensive options, and he has the base damage there, so he does not have to continuously stack AD items. R death mark 120 to, 80 to 120 to 100, completely fake, because again, Zed gets ability haste, which means he has the R up once per fight. He's never getting 2 Rs off in a fight anyway. This does not matter. It's fake news. Anyone who doesn't know how to fucking read R cooldowns, and when Riot does these bullshit fake nerfs, I just don't even know what to say to you, because there's basically no champions that actually ever had game-breaking ultimates that were able to almost ever get 2 ultimates off inside of a team fight, except in really gross situations, sometimes also with like past, items and past dragons and these types of things and yada, yada, yada. Where it could have been game-breaking. Our Death Stance is going to get flat 10 armor. Very nice. Kraken Slayer is going to have 80% effectiveness now for ranged champions, thus Riot conceding that this item is now failed. They need to just remove the item and add a new item or make a new item, which they might actually do in off-season. Lord Dominik's Regard losing 5% armor pen, and Mortal Reminder losing a flat 5 AD. Totally fine. Statikk Shiv is going to lose 2% movement speed, so not really anything negligible. It's going to be like 6 MS, whatever. Total gold cost is going to go up by 100, whatever. Stormsurge, one of the worst items in the game. Storm Raider bonus MS, 25 to 35% now. And the Squall range modifier is going to go up by 15%. Now, Cosmic Drive. This is one of the items where this is one of the things that you have to basically pay attention to when these types of things are happening. This is like if you play Magic the Gathering and you know what those guilds are and stuff. And if you don't play Magic the Gathering and you don't know what the guilds are, you suck. That's totally fine. So, here's the thing. Cosmic Drive. Remember Lilia just got nerfed not too long ago? She lost a little bit of healing, which affects her durability and stuff. Well, Cosmic Drive is a Lilia item. So, because Cosmic Drive is a Lilia item, she's now having effectively 100 more HP when she finally does pick up this item later on inside of the game. which now means, ergo, that the healing nerf that she ended up having happen is sort of mitigated by the buff that happens indirectly via this item that she acquires later in the game. But this affects, like, a lot of things. This is mostly an item for, like, the champions that really want it. Lilia, Sylas are two that come to mind. Rise, I guess, in some cases, is going to want Cosmic Drive. There's not a whole lot of champions that actually like Cosmic Drive in general. But yes, for battle mages and stuff that do actually want to utilize the HP and the health and all the other stats that it gets, spell dance movement speed also going up by 15 at rank 1, or as soon as you complete it and stuff, is just really nice. So this is totally fine. Really nice buff for Cosmic Drive for the champions that want it. Hextech Rocketbelt, this is one of the funniest things, though, where Riot is just they're giving 100 HP to an item that no one cares about. This is one of the worst items in the entire fucking game. When I see someone build this item, I want to blow my fucking eyes out. This is a litmus test of an item where it's only really viable on hyper-specific champions, and Riot should have done away with hyper-specific champion itemizations like they did with Hextech Gunblade once upon a time. Rest in peace, you were one of the greatest items ever. But Hextech Rocketbelt, instead of giving it 100 HP, how about you actually make it deal damage? But no, we can't do that because the champions that actually do build Hextech Rocketbelt, Riot has determined that they are unhealthy and not allowed to actually exist competitively. So, Void Staff. Ability power going up by 5. So this is one of the also really cool litmus tests that people can't fucking determine. So here's the thing here. Void Staff versus Crit Bloom is always determined by, did you want the increased magic penetration in order to have your spell rotations kill the targets that you're hitting quicker, or did you value the ability haste as well as the heals from Crit Bloom? That is what it's always about. Now, 5 ability power for most champions that don't even have 100% AP ratios means that in, most cases, you're probably getting less than 10 damage from this buff, okay? Now, 10 damage was not what was changing you from going Void Staff or Crit Bloom when making the decision, which means that now if you see this buff and you think that this is something that actually moves the needle, you don't know how to read patch notes, nor do you know how to read releases or, new reveals and anything like that, and that's totally fine. So, 5 ability power doesn't do anything. It's complete fake, complete thing just to make you remember that Void Staff exists if you're a Crit Bloom enthusiast. But realistically, this doesn't do anything. Now, a 5% AP pen or magic pen buff or something, that'd be absolutely ginormous. And if we're talking about maybe like 10 ability power or something on an item that can be built second, and because it's being able to be built second, maybe you actually have it for additional fights and stuff. And that 10, if you're able to go at second in laning phase or something, and you're able to have it like 14, 15, 16 minutes and really freak cases and whatnot, the 10 is a little bit more that you can talk about, but we're talking about 5 on non 100% AP ratios, and even the 10 is not really able to be talked about. So really we just need to talk about penetration and whatnot. Not that kind of penetration. Guys, this isn't that kind of a stream. Null Magic Mantle, cost going down by 50, and magic resistance going down by 5. This just makes it easier to purchase, so that's totally fine. Now, all of the boots in the games are getting nerfed right now. Merc Treads is going up by gold cost of 100, magic resistance going down by 5. This is this actually singularly has to be the most incorrectly purchased boot in the entire game. So it makes me really happy that they're probably going to just buy it less now in pro play and everything. Berserker is going down by 5%, doesn't really matter. Ionian boots are probably just going to be the best item now, or the best boot now, just in general. Going up by 100, that's 1 jungle camp or, 1 non-cannon wave, etc. Summoner Haste going down by 2, not the end of the world. Steel-plated boot camps going up by 200 gold and giving you 2% back. Total scam. Absolute scam. This is Boris' favorite boots. You guys might remember from the streams when I was doing on LCS, EWC, etc. I talked about the steel-plated boot camps document where there was 150 games of playing various different juggernauts and bruisers and Skarner and all these other types of things, and calculating how much damage was actually being reduced from the auto attacks and whatnot. Generally, plated steel caps is giving you somewhere around a ruby crystal. That's when it used to be at 10%. Very rarely would it give you a giant spell worth of value. And so when you actually consider that certain champions have utility spells and whatnot, so Skarner had his W and all that good jazz. So if the Ionian boots is granting you an extra W cast inside of a team fight, well, whatever Skarner's shield was, meant that, okay, well, now you calculate the shield versus what steel-plated plated steel caps would have actually reduced. And, is that shield being chewed through? If the answer is yes, then you get an equation there. Or like if you're playing Darius or something like that, you have Ionian Boots of Lucidity or something, and you get an extra Q off inside of a fight, and that grants you more healing. All these types of things are conversations and variables that you have to juggle when looking at these types of, boots and whatnot. So plated steel caps are a really bad item. Sorcerer's Shoes losing 3 M-Pen feels really painful, especially because not a lot of champions were building Merc Treads, and the champions that actually do build Sword Pen boots over Ionian or over Swiftness or these types of things, it's because they actually need the damage in order to be useful. So that is painful. But Swift is going up by 1,000. Okay, Symbiotic Souls, whatever, Wit's End now going up by 25. Abyssal Mask now, a few patches ago, we tried to make Abyssal Mask enticing for both low-income support tanks, for any offensively skewed income tanks as well. So this is just really good. You're paying 200 more gold, you're getting 10% more magic resistant shred. Absolutely love it. That's super, super, super big. 200 gold for 10. 10 more M-Pen is super big for the champions that want Abyssal Mask. That is super big. Take it any day of the week. Dark Harvest doesn't matter. Fleet Footwork also does not matter. And that is how we also know that this patch didn't matter. So, barring the Sylas change and the indirect stuff, and I guess you can talk about Yasuo and Yone are somewhat meaningful. Other than that, nothing really going on here. I guess you could say Shyvanna, even though she hasn't popped up enough in competitive yet, she was probably going to start appearing a lot more. And that is really it for 14-15. We're getting absolute garbage. And the other thing here is that, again, the next champion release doesn't even come out until Arcane Season 2 or something. So because of that, we have no new champion for another, 2-3 months or something. And we're just locked into these absolute hell torment shit patches on just pure repeat. We're not getting anything like 14 and 10. And Riot is also just stuck between a rock and a hard place. And you look at the competitive meta, and then you have a bunch of these fucking idiots parroting this absolute bullshit nonsense about, Fearless Draft, Fearless Draft. Fearless Draft's not fixing shit, guys. All that's going to happen is Team A, is going to pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Team B is going to pick 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then in game fucking 2, Team A is going to pick 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and Team B is going to pick fucking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and also, and then we're just going to cycle it. And that's all that's going to happen. And then teams are going to cycle each other's patterns, and it's just going to become a cycle fest. And so rather than just seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 6, 5 or something, game 1 and 2 by the same exact team, now what you're going to see is you're just going to see traded patterns amongst teams, and that is it. And so I've already talked about this. I've been talking about it if you've watched my YouTube channel for 3 years and whatnot. Iron Man drafting, I think, is a little bit different. Again, Fearless Draft does have value in Game 4, Game 5 of, best of fives and whatnot. That is where you really do start to see the pinches come in. Fearless Draft is not a fix. It's not a solution. It's not going to alter anything in pro play. You're out of your mind, and you've never partook in a game that had limited experiences. And there's not really that many games that actually have limited experiences, where there's restrictions in place and whatnot. Obviously, a lot of people with card game backgrounds would understand what is going on there and why Fearless doesn't actually do anything. However, I do think that if there is to be a solution that fixes draft and stuff, then you need a sealed format, which would be the thing that I talked about on stream and on Twitter and elsewhere. Sealed format being that Riot basically says, hey, at the start of this week, these 60 champions are allowed. Good luck. And what that ends up doing is teams have a set amount of scrims each week. And because they have a set amount of scrims and there's a limited amount of scrims in each day, they have to come up with and determine what they want to do that week with that champion pool. And because there's a limited amount of scrims, it means that every single team is going to have different takes on probably what to play based on obviously who they're scrimming against and what they're doing. And yes, there's a little bit more chaos involved, but it doesn't matter because the viewer experience is ultimately all that matters, not the pro experience. And through that, you have forced diversity, and you can do sealed in addition to also adding even fearless type restrictions and whatnot. And I think that's totally fine. So this patch mostly just existed, guys, to sell skins, nothing else. And honestly, the T1 World skins do look very good, but this was not a competitive patch by any means. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and that is pretty much it. There's very, very minor things that even are impacting solo queue from a change like this. So maybe there is the first like patron update in like 4 patches, just because now I guess we kind of have like enough to do something with, but realistically nothing is changing patch to patch, and it just really sucks.